Welcome to Vegan Food and Living's Simply Vegan podcast with me, Holly Johnson, and my co-host, Gabriella Clark. With a new episode live every Tuesday, we discuss the latest vegan news, taste test the newest vegan products, and chat to some of the leading names in veganism. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Don't forget to leave us a review on your platform of choice. And of course, follow us on social media. Instagram, we are at Vegan Food and Living and at Simply Vegan Podcast. And you can also find us on Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm flying solo today. My wing woman has been away visiting family. I think she's trying to fit lots in before her little vegan baby arrives. So yes, you're stuck with me for the duration of today's podcast. I hope everyone listening here in the UK has enjoyed some much needed sun over the bank holiday weekend. I know I have. After a month of non-stop rain, I think we've all been desperate for a little bit of sunshine. I've been eating a lot of amazing vegan food this weekend. I had my niece's Mexican themed birthday party. So I made some roasted chestnut and walnut meat in inverted commas. It's the recipe from Loving It Vegan blog. The recipe actually suggests using tofu, but a friend said she preferred it with roasted chestnuts, so I gave that a go. It was really good. I think I maybe put in too many walnuts because it was a little bit too crunchy, but people seem to enjoy it. I always try and take something a bit different along to parties in the hope that someone will, try it and think, oh, I don't actually need the meat option anymore. I'm not sure I succeeded this time, but you never know. Hopefully I planted the seed. I also made some delicious pineapple salsa with chilies and lime, which I took along, which was amazing. I've also been having a few barbecues. I tried the Beyond Meat burgers for the first time. I can't believe it's taken me so long to try them, but they're just often quite expensive, aren't they? I think £5 for two often in Tesco. So I tried those. They were extremely meaty. I mean, I would seriously challenge any meat eater to recognize that they weren't meat. Not quite as big as I thought they'd be. So, I don't think I'd necessarily go for those over other ones, such as the Morrison's The Best Ultimate Meat-Free Burgers, which are £2.50 for two. They're some of my favourites. And my friend's also been raving about the M&S Plant Kitchen no beef burgers. So, if you're having barbecues over the half-term holidays or just during this nice sunny weather, give those a try. This week, we were taste testing the new plant milk range from Linda McCartney. So this is really exciting because obviously traditionally they've been more of a vegetarian brand. So great new launch. The whole range is organic and it includes a barista style oat, a barista style coconut, and a soya and rice milk. What I like about this range is it's really clean. There's no kind of like oils or sugars. It's really nice and natural with just a few ingredients. They are a little bit more expensive than some of the others. The RRP is $1.99, but then Alpro is often a similar price, I think, especially for the organic soya. And I tend to buy it just when it's on offer, really. So really like this. The coconut one, I've been making coconut lattes with. I do tend to avoid coconut milk because I always feel like it's kind of extra calories that I maybe want to avoid. But really nice, really creamy, without being too sickly. And again, with the oat, really nice and creamy without being too thick. So those are available in Tesco's permanently from the 5th of July and Sainsbury's from the end of June. So go check those out. The other thing that I was taste testing this week were the new lovely little bites, which are dairy-free, coconut-based ice cream kind of balls. They are so cute. They're by a brand called Cecily's. I think I'm pronouncing that right. and they're available at selected M&S stores as well as the Cecily's website. They are, yeah, they're organic and they're approved by the Vegan Society, and really, really nice, because often with ice cream, I just think, oh, I can't be bothered to scoop it all out. Often it's like too solid and I can't I can't be bothered to wait for it. I'm quite an impatient person, I think. And you never sort of know how much to have, do you? And then you kind of eat more than you should. Whereas these, you just kind of, you can just take them like a little chocolate. So you just kind of pull open the freezer and just take sort of one or two, and it's like a nice little treat without kind of feeling you're overindulging. Yeah, they've won the Great Taste Awards, so obviously really popular and made from sustainable plant-based ingredients. So yeah, I love these, and they've got lots of other flavors, including mint choc, chocolate orange swirl, double caramel, pure chocolate, pure caramel, and rum and raisin, with new flavors launching soon. So yeah, I definitely want to try the other ones. I'm going to keep it short and sweet today because I'm on my own. So we'll go straight into the interview. I spoke to Cath Short, who runs Raw for Fitness. She is a specialist in weight loss. And I think with us all coming out of lockdown, it's something that's on our minds. The more people I speak to, the more everyone seems to be saying the same thing. You know, we've all been kind of overindulging to get ourselves through these difficult times. And when we did a weight loss podcast this morning with Olivier Mancondo, it's actually proved to be the most listened to podcast episode. So we thought, right, everybody's hungry for a little bit of, you know, slimming down, nothing extreme, just, you know, getting back on track. What should we be doing to drop a few pounds? Maybe, you know, ditching the processed food and upping our nutrients. Cath is really knowledgeable. She's dedicated the last 9 years of her life to reading pretty much, you know, every book on vegan nutrition. She's now qualified as a vegan nutritionist as well, and she's a vegan PT. So have a listen. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, Cath. Welcome to the Simply Vegan podcast. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm great, Holly. And I'm so happy and excited to be here, to be on the Simply Vegan podcast. It's really exciting.
Anyone who listens to the show regularly will know that I've mentioned Cath Short quite a few times, because she basically started me on my vegan journey. And I thought it's about time we got her on the show. So shall we start at the beginning? What led you to veganism in the first place, Cath?
Well, for me, it was definitely health for sure. I had been suffering with various physical problems, aches and pains, and I'd actually been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which it turned out I actually had something else, but it doesn't matter. At that point, I thought I had sort of inflammation in my body, and I thought, well, I have a choice. I can either be on these tablets for the rest of my life, or I can actually take my health into my own hands and do something about it. And the more research I did, I kept coming back to a plant-based diet every time. It was like plant-based. So I thought, well, you know, I've got nothing to lose. Let's give it a go. And so, yeah, that's why it was about 8 years ago, January the 1st. I'll quickly tell this story. I was on holiday with a big group of friends, and I sort of the night before, after a few drinks, I declared I was going to be a vegan, not just a vegan, a raw vegan. And so overnight, I made the switch. I just went both feet in, went for it. I thought, let's not mess about. Let's just do it.
They must have thought you were mad. Did you give up alcohol at the same time as well?
I did, Holly, and caffeine.
Wow, that is a massive change.
Yeah. Well, I knew I needed to make this big shift. I knew I couldn't just mess around trying, oh, let's try a bit gluten-free, let's try a bit, I thought I need to make a big change to make a big impact on my health.
So yeah. eight years ago, you were eating meat, fish, dairy, eggs, drinking alcohol, everything, just
everything.
A normal Western diet.
I mean, it was relatively healthy in the sense that I did cook, I wasn't living on takeaways and things. We obviously had the odd one, maybe once a fortnight, once a month, but it was what I thought at the time a healthy diet. Yeah.
How did you feel, in those first few weeks and months of switching?
I think I'd say it took about a week or so for me to start to sort of notice anything. Initially, there was definitely some purging going on. So I've always had problems with my skin ever since I was a teenager. And I noticed I don't want to say this to put people off, Holly, but I did notice in the first week some purging through my skin. But then what was fantastic, and I didn't see this coming at all, was that my skin completely cleared up for the first time in my life. And that was probably about 2 months in, it was completely clear. So yeah, I did notice some changes, and I definitely noticed an increase in energy. I mean, remember I was suffering from fatigue at the time. It's one of the reasons why I went plant-based, but so it's not like I was suddenly, doing cartwheels around the kitchen, but I was sleeping better. I had more energy. I was generally feeling a lot better. Yeah, a lot more energized.
Was weight loss sort of an issue for you at the time, or not really? Did that sort of come later when you were working because obviously now you're a PT, aren't you? And you specialize in weight loss.
Yes. So at the time, no, weight loss wasn't on my mind. I didn't particularly need to lose weight. So that wasn't why I was doing it. No, I'll be perfectly honest. But, as I will probably go on to talk about, being a personal trainer, then of course it's a big part of my life now. That's what I coach in. Yeah. I mean, probably 80 to 90% of my clients come to me for weight loss. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what kind of advice do you give them when they come to you? Because presumably they're not all vegan or eating a whole food diet in any way.
Some come to me because I am a plant-based nutritionist. There are some that really don't come to me for nutritional, they're just not interested in my nutrition advice. They literally come for exercise, but that's few and far between. Most people come because they know I'm a plant-based PT and they're interested in how to do that. And then occasionally, obviously, I get some vegetarians who are just ready to take it a step further, maybe not fully to veganism, but they're sort of interested in how to ditch dairy and eggs, or at least, sort of reduce the intake of it. But what I've really noticed the difference when I first started this journey as a plant-based PT, probably about 5 years ago. I found it hard to get through to people the importance of plant-based eating, and I found it wasn't particularly well received. And whereas now, even since sort of coming out this side of lockdown, the difference is amazing. I mean, people literally call me and say, "Oh, I see you're plant-based nutritionist. That's great. I want to learn more." And I can't believe the difference. It's just come on leaps and bounds. And for people like me who do this for a living, it's just so welcoming. It's so refreshing. That the information is finally getting out there. The books are out there. And it's not just plant-based people talking about it. It's on the news. It's in the newspapers. It's on documentaries. The information is getting out, and we're going to see a big increase in more and more people becoming plant-based. So give it 10 years time, and it will be unbelievable. It's not even a question in my mind. I know I can see it happening because I've monitored it from, for the last 9 years. I've seen it improve.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? And even since, you turned me vegan sort of 3.5 years ago.
I did.
Led me down this path. I've had, obviously been working on a vegan magazine, now a vegan podcast. So you certainly changed my life, Cath, actually, didn't you? How does it work then? So a client comes to you, they feel that they're overweight, they're unhappy with their body. You use some sort of special scales, don't you?
I do. So I use bioelectrical impedance scales, which sounds very fancy, but basically what it does is it reads not just your weight. So it's seeing how hydrated you are. It's looking at the fat percentage, the amount of muscle mass you have, and it even divides that between right arm, left arm, right leg, left leg, so and torso. So you get those 5 fat percentage readings, so you can see where the fat is. And then you can really see whether someone's a bit more pear-shaped or apple, or, you can really see the difference. Also, the one I really, really find interesting, there's 2 that I really look at. One is metabolic age. So if a 40-year-old woman or man came in and their metabolic age was coming up as higher than their actual age, then there's work to be done. Sometimes it's about the same age, and occasionally I see it lower, but normally people who come in who are overweight their metabolic age tends to be above that. And sometimes it can be quite shocking and even a bit upsetting, but it is that realization when you see it there in black and white, you see those figures there, metabolic age, the fat percentage, and it's that realization of the work that needs to be done. So those scales for me are crucial. I use those all the time. And then if someone's coming to me for weight loss, then we will look at that. It depends how often they want. From one every week or every 2 weeks, we'll go back on the scales and see how we're doing. Yeah.
You did put me on them, didn't you? Or I asked to be
yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah, and that was after going vegan. And I think my metabolic age was like 20 something, I think. And
yes, I'll have it written down somewhere. I should have checked. Yes, it was very good.
Yeah, so I was quite excited. So then obviously you'll come up with an exercise regime for them, but what about the diet side of things then?
So with clients, really, it's not all one size fits all, because it depends how plant-based they want to go. So regardless of that, what I'm really looking at is saturated fats, trying to reduce those down. So, if someone is determined not to stop eating chicken, let's say, then I make sure they take the skin off the chicken and then gradually introduce them to some plant-based versions of that without trying to scare them too much. In a plant-based world, trying to reduce saturated fats, it's fine. There's not much to think about. The main thing is coconut. Now, I'm not opposed to coconut. Coconut's fantastic and delicious. But if you're eating coconut cream on a nightly basis in a curry, then you're probably eating too much saturated fat. Something we use, and I always say to my clients, is to replace that with an Oatly cream, an oat-based cream, something like that. But saturated fats are something that are really important to just start bringing down. And when you naturally move to a more plant-based diet, you will do that anyway. You will start to reduce your saturated fat. And also, of course, you're then going to stop eating cholesterol. Your body makes all the cholesterol it needs. So on a plant-based diet, the word cholesterol doesn't even need to come into it. You just don't have to think about it. And the other thing is carbohydrates. So occasionally I'll get a client who's so carb phobic, they'll barely eat a carrot. So it's really looking at the extremes with those. Like brown basmati rice is good, sweet potato with its skin on is good. Let's steer away from the donuts and the white flours, the white sugars, just trying to show people that carbs are good. We need carbs. We run on carbs. Glucose is imperative for us. We want to keep those topped up. But there's something I'd really like to talk about is intermittent fasting, if that's all right, because although you can do intermittent fasting on any diet, it doesn't matter if you're paleo or whatever, it is a very good tool for weight loss. And with intermittent fasting, we're really looking at, on a 24-hour cycle, the hours that you are fasting and the hours that you are eating. So I always try and get clients to aim for 16 hours fasting and 8 hours eating. Now, initially that might sort of shock you. If you're used to eating up until you go to bed, say like with a supper at 9 o'clock in the evening, and then having breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you're only getting a 10-hour fast. And what research is showing, so this is really research led, we know this, that when you prolong your fasting hours, so let's say, Holly, let's say you have dinner at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then you don't eat until, say, 10 o'clock the next day, that is your 16 hours fast.
And that's perfectly doable, isn't it? I mean, that's
It's
not
perfectly doable. Yeah. And what it does is it gives your body an opportunity to tap into stored fat, because we have 3 places where we store energy. We have it running through our blood vessels in our arteries. We have the glucose there from food that we've just eaten. We have glucose stored as glycogen in our muscle tissue and in our liver. And then we also have stored fat. So this is the stored fat is the absolute last port of call for your body to find energy, because it's so hard for it to convert it into energy. So if we've got glucose in our system and we've got, we haven't used up our stored glycogen, then we're really not going to tap into the stored fat. You could be on the healthiest, cleanest diet in the entire world, and you may still struggle to lose weight. So, it is, I think, if you've tried all the diets in the book, and or if you're sort of wanting to lose weight for a specific date, for a wedding, or a specific function, then I would say this is a great tool to give it a go. Because really, when you have your 8-hour eating window, it's not about calorie restriction. So we're not counting calories. We're not saying, you can only have 1 banana and you can only have this, that, the other. You eat. You can even have breakfast, lunch, and dinner within those 8 hours. Go for it. If you can eat that much, then go for it. It's not about calorie restriction. It is literally about giving your body an opportunity to tap into stored fat. And it works. I see it work time and time again. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I've been doing it for the last few weeks on your advice, because I follow all of your advice, Cath. And it's really helped me, because I am doing a desk job and sort of 8 hours a day on and off. I do run around the house a bit in between that and walk the dog and stuff, but I am mainly sitting at a desk like a lot of people. And I was getting up and having a breakfast. Okay, it was healthy. It might be yogurt, granola, chia. I was kind of loading it up with all these, what I thought were amazing foods, and obviously are amazing foods, but I didn't need all that fuel, because I'm only walking the dog, at a sort of snail's pace most of the time, because he's, wandering around sniffing and things, and then coming and sitting at my desk all day. So, it's really helped me, and definitely, in terms of gut health, I feel a lot better, and a lot more energized. You talked about oils, so you sort of mentioned maybe avoiding too much coconut oil, but what about things that, like avocado and stuff like that? Should we be kind of cutting down on them if we want to lose weight?
Yes, I definitely would say, well, it depends on how much you have of it, of course, but I would say be mindful of it for sure. I mean, especially with processed packaged food, there's often a lot of oil. And what I get my clients to do is just to look at the ingredients. So if you're buying something that's packaged, let's say, you really don't have time to cook from scratch every day, which is fine, that's normal, that's being human and being busy. But you just look at those ingredients, and if, say, let's say palm oil or whatever oil is right at the top of the list of those ingredients, let's say it's the first 1, 2, 3 ingredients, that's going to be quite high. So it's being mindful. When I cook at home, I really very rarely use oil. Sometimes I'll brush a pan. If I'm making pancakes, let's say flippy pancakes, not American pancakes, I'll brush the pan with coconut oil to make sure it doesn't stick. But I'm not adding oils to the food. So I even fry onions and celery and things like that in water. Technically, it's not really frying, but I just, if I'm making a soup, I don't use any oil. I literally just chuck everything in the pan. I am all about speed. I don't want to be spending hours in the kitchen. It's not possible. And we just don't have the time. So it's finding ways. Okay, so I'm not going to use oil to fry that food. How else can I do it? Steaming vegetables, or even if I cook chips. We have chips on a weekly basis. They're homemade. I just literally quickly, I'm not fussy. I leave the skins on. I just chop it all up, probably wedges normally. And I have a mesh tray. I don't know if you've seen them. There's sort of like a mesh tray, so the air can get underneath.
Oh,
From
okay.
underneath as well, and it just means you don't have to worry too much about moving them around, and they get reasonably crispy. I mean, we're not talking deep fried here, not quite as crispy as that, but we really, as a family, we really enjoy them. They do definitely get crispy.
Yeah.
And I don't use any oil at all.
That's amazing. I mean, my husband does sneak the oil on. I have tried to make wedges and roasted veg and roast dinners without oil. But then I'll come in the kitchen and find him covering it. And once you kind of start cutting out the oil, you really don't enjoy the sort of taste and feel of it anymore, do you? You kind of
no. I had a Buddha bowl somewhere recently, and it was absolutely lovely, but it was just too oily. There was just oil on the lettuce, and I just thought, I just don't need it. Just don't need it. But I would just say, not all oils are the enemy here. I don't want to just say oils are bad. A cold press extra virgin olive oil certainly has certain nutrients in it that are good, but we have to understand that it's highly, highly calorific. So when we want to lose weight, we've got to see where those dense calorie foods are, and so it could be even a healthy plant-based food like nuts and seeds, but they're still calorie dense. So we just want to reduce those down. And then once you get to the weight that you want and the body that you want, then you can probably up that a little bit. But we have to sort of create this calorie deficit, but without counting calories, just being mindful of where those calories come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a fiend for the nuts and seeds, especially in salads and on my breakfast, and I have reduced them a little bit lately. So, I mean, are there any brands? Let's talk about processed foods for a moment, because obviously, like you mentioned, we don't all have time to cook from scratch. Ideally, we would, but are there any brands that you kind of advocate that you found that aren't too bad in terms of, nutrition and fat?
I'm going to say I'm not going to name brands, and I'll tell you why. Because even there are some brands that will produce certain foods that I would say those are the green light, go for it. So brands like Bol, for example, Bol, Bol, some of theirs and a lot of theirs are super healthy, lovely, really clean food. And then some of theirs, when you just look at the saturated fat, they've used a lot of coconut. So I'm not saying it's bad for you in terms of health and longevity, but in terms of weight loss, if that's what we're looking at, then I would say steer clear of those. So instead of getting clients to say, right, go for that brand, should I tell you what I do, Holly? Should I give you a little trick?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I know that people listening can't see this, but I'm just looking at a packet of plant-powered, they're Lincolnshire sausages that I buy from my local health food shop. So these sausages, while I'm not going to say, yes, eat these every day, they are a processed, they might be vegan, but they're a processed packaged food. So what I would do is I would look at the saturated fat. And what I'm really looking for is for the saturated fat to be below 1%. And these sausages are 1.2% saturated fat. So it's just tipping over, but it's okay. When you look at something like traditional pork sausages, I think it's something, I remember looking a while back, it was something like 10, 12%, not fat, saturated fat. That means the fat is even higher. That's going to be like 30, 40%. So we're really, I just get people just look at that saturated fat, regardless of the brand, and see. Then the next thing we want to do is look at the ingredients. So are the ingredients clean? So, we don't just want to be eating chemicals that have been made in a lab. We want to be eating foods that are actually food, they're grown from the ground.
Yeah.
So if there's all these ingredients that sound like chemicals and we don't know what they are, then do you really want to eat it? I mean, I know I'm coming from a position of healthy plant-based eating, and not everyone is coming from that angle. Some people are just doing veganism for the planet, the animals, and I'm with you too. I salute you. But when it comes to our own health, that's a personal choice, isn't it? How clean do you want to make your food? And when it comes to weight loss, the cleaner you can make it, the better. Because those chemicals are not going to help you in the long run.
Yeah. What's some of your, can you share perhaps a few of your favorite recipes? I mean, obviously you don't need to list all the ingredients, but
Sure.
I know you have some, I mean, you're always sharing some amazing sort of sweet snacks and things like that,
Mm.
and tasty dressings.
Yeah. So um, let's start with family favorites. So we love curries. We absolutely love curries. And as I mentioned before, we use Oatly cream. If we want to use a cream, normally we'd use, sort of a tin of chopped tomatoes and a tin of and a carton of Oatly cream. So in our curries, obviously lots of veg, and I try and please everyone in the family. So my husband and I love baked aubergine. We love aubergine in our curries, whereas my girls just really are repulsed by it. I would just cook the aubergine separately, and then we add that to ours, because I think, especially when bringing up vegan kids, you really, really want them to enjoy it. We can't force these things onto them. And I don't think I would have eaten aubergine when I was 13. So why would I expect my 13-year-old to?
Yeah.
So it's a lot, often with kids, it's a texture thing. So I'm always trying to please everyone. And quite often what I'll do is I'll cook a family meal like macaroni cheese. Obviously cheese being not dairy cheese. And I'll do a big salad with it. And on my plate, because I don't like to have a heavy meal in the evening, I will have probably 3/4 of my plate will be the salad. And in my salad will be lots, we're talking all sorts of things in there, with the avocados and a few seeds, but also a whole rainbow salad going on there. And then probably 1/4 of my plate will be the mac and cheese, whereas my kids will probably be half and half. They'll have half mac and cheese and then half a load of veg, whether they have the salad or the steamed veg. So although we're all eating together as a family, I kind of tailor it a little bit to, to the individual, whether it's for my husband or the kids. The mac and cheese, the sauce, do you know, I've adapted it over time. I used to just sort of blend cashews, but now I have found, I can't remember who I saw doing it. It's actually steamed potato. You do have to skin the potato, but steamed potato with steamed onion and garlic and a little bit of, if I've got cauliflower, put a bit of that in as well. You want to keep it all as white as possible. I say that you can put in a bit of peeled sweet potato as well. That just gives it that slight yellowy hint, like a dairy cheese would have.
Yeah.
And once you've steamed them, you blend them with a few cashews. I tend to soak the cashews first to make it a bit smoother. Some lemon juice, some mustard seeds, trying to think, some milk, of course, milk, and just start with a little bit of, we use oat milk, a little bit of milk, and then you can always add more if you want it to go make a thinner sauce. But the starch in the potatoes make it very similar to the texture of cheese sauce. It's quite incredible.
That's a really good tip, actually. I need you to send me this recipe. Perhaps you could send it to me and I could share it with listeners, because I've been doing the cashews and it's just never tastes quite right. I definitely can't get it past the 9-year-old. The 14-year-old will eat it, but
I find a mixture of everything, and it sounds complicated, but it's really, if you've got a blender and you're used to using your blender, then it's just steaming a few veg really, and then blending it all up. And it's like anything, when I first show people some recipes, they're like, oh, that's so complicated. And I say, do you ever make a meat lasagna? And they say, yes. And I say, well, to me, that sounds like so much work, the layers, doing the meat, you get used to what you do. To me, the thought of doing a roast dinner with meat is just the timings and everything sounds so complicated. I think I'd feel so stressed.
Yeah.
So you get used to what you do and you get quicker and more efficient and better at what you do. So it's just about it becoming a habit.
And presumably you could make a big batch of that sauce and stick it in the freezer to have.
Yes. Yeah, you could for sure. And what I tend to do is just make a bit too much. And then I'll even use that as a sort of drizzle that on my salad as a sauce. Or I even make double, and I'll save it for the next day, and we might make pizzas. And then I drizzle that on the pizza instead of grating cheese on, even instead of grating a vegan cheese, because it's just healthier than even a vegan cheese.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
What about sweet stuff then? I don't have a sweet tooth, but I know a lot of listeners will do.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but just a really quick sweet snack, which I adore, is you just get one medjool date, you take out the stone, you put in half to a teaspoonful of almond butter or nut butter of your choice. You can sprinkle it with a little bit of cacao powder if you like, and it's the quickest, most delicious sweet snack. And if you have that sweet craving, say mid-afternoon, one at the most two, they're quite dense, they're quite rich. You really won't need more than that, and it will hit the spot. And it's a nice easy snack. So I actually had friends over at the weekend, our first post-lockdown dinner party, and I made some magnums. But actually, one of my lovely guests pointed out that it was way more like a frozen Snicker bar than actually a magnum. But they went down a treat. They were so delicious. They were a little bit of work, but were they really? I think they were, just because the first time they went completely wrong because I had the wrong molds. And if you buy the silicone molds so they can just pop out, then the second time I did it with those molds, they went brilliantly, and it was very quick and easy. But they were delicious. I mean, I'm always going to say fruit salad, because you can't go wrong with an absolutely just healthy fruit salad, especially as we go into summer with all those lovely strawberries and raspberries and everything. So yeah, so I did go through a phase of making like a weekly vegan cheesecake, which is sort of cashew based. And you just Google vegan cheesecake and you'll get thousands and thousands of results there. But that was quite a family favorite for a while. But I think there's quite a few vegan choices out there in the supermarket. I know Wicked Kitchen in Tesco's do quite a lot of things. I mean, now we're really going away from the healthy side of things for weight loss, but if you're not looking for that, then yeah, I mean, Wicked Kitchen in Tesco's have got so many wonderful desserts now. And if you need to cheat and you're entertaining, or even just, for a family Saturday night treat, then just go for it. He does some wonderful, Derek. There's some lovely
Derek
things
Sarno.
there. Good old Derek Sarno, yeah. So you can't go wrong if you need to cheat. Yeah.
Well, Cath, I could talk to you all day. I mean, you're so knowledgeable. I think you've spent sort of the last 9 years really, since you were diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which obviously turned out you didn't have, but you spent the last 9 years researching, haven't you? Every book I mention you've read, every documentary I mention you've watched. So yeah, you're a real fountain of knowledge. Thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you so much, Holly. And I just want to say last words, just to say that, wherever you are on your journey, don't put yourself under too much pressure. And I'm sure people have said this to you before on podcasts, Holly, but it's really important for people when they start out their journey for you to know that even if just changing to a plant-based milk, and you do that even for a year, let's say, you are still making an incredible impact for those dairy cows, for the planet, for your health. So don't underestimate those little changes. And if your ultimate goal is to be fully vegan, then great, keep going and just make those little changes as and when you're ready. But don't underestimate the little changes, because you will be reducing your carbon footprint as well. And the world needs those little changes hugely. We need them.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
Well, that's it from me for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy your week in the sunshine. In the meantime, you can visit veganfoodandliving.com for lots of lovely summery recipes. And don't forget to drop us a review on your chosen platform. And you can also listen on your smart speaker. So just shout at it, play Simply Vegan Podcast and have a listen. See you next week.